All right, giving all praises to the Heavenly Father. His name is Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. Shalom to the brothers and sisters of the household of faith. And once again, it's another video. Hopefully you find this one edifying as well as exhorting. What I did was I typed in Irish customs that resemble Negro customs. And interestingly enough, I got some information which I'd like to share with you, brothers and sisters of the household of faith. It says, while there are no specific ancient Irish customs that directly parallel ancient Negro, a dated and potentially offensive term for people of African descent, which were actually of Hebrew Israelite descent. All right, African is another offensive term too, because we're not African. All right. Customs, historical interactions in the Americas led to significant and cultural mixing and shared experiences of marginalization, marginalize, marginal, wow, marginalization. You got to say that word a few times, resulting in some blended traditions. The term Black Irish in the U.S. generally refers to people of Irish descent with dark features, not a link to African customs. Where they get the dark features from. All right. And again, we're not African. We descend from the Hebrew Israelites. That's our true nationality. Points of connection between Irish and African American cultures primarily stem from their shared history in the Americas as marginalized groups, particularly during the era of slavery and indentured servitude. And they give you some examples here. Musical fusion, the close proximity of Irish indentured servants and enslaved Africans, particularly in the Caribbean, facilitated facilitated musical exchange. Some analyses suggest that a blues shuffle rhythm fits well with traditional Irish tunes like Whiskey in the Jar, indicating early fusion. Now, an example of the musical fusion is country and western. That's what it was called. Because I had spent some time in St. Lucia when I was a little boy from 1971 to 1977. And I can tell you for a fact that country and western music was very popular in the island that where my parents are from, which is St. Lucia. Now, what I did was, and a lot of the country and western artists, a lot of their background go back to Scotland and Ireland. Okay. This is what I typed in, as you can see here. Why is country music so popular in the Caribbean? All right. And this is what came up. Country music is popular in the Caribbean due to historical and cultural factors, including the influence of American radio and military broadcasts, the migration of workers to the United States who brought back music, and the shared themes and lyrics that resonate with Caribbean audiences. The music's roots in gospel, its focus on rural life, and that's a fact. Country and western music came out of gospel, and gospel goes back to Jake. The music's roots in gospel, its focus on rural life, and the lyrical complexities of songs about love, loss, and hardship also contribute to its appeal. Historical and cultural reasons, American influence, early exposure came from American military radio broadcasts in places like St. Lucia. And I was blown away when that. I was like, oh, shit. Because I know for a fact, like I said, I spent some time in St. Lucia from 1971 to 1977. And I remember as a little boy hearing the people, the town where my parents were from, hearing the older people playing that music. Um, these country and western artists, Buck Owens, Jim Reeves, Conway Twitty, Tammy Wynette, Dolly Parton, Porter Wagoner, a, a bunch of artists, man, that I grew up listening to. So I'm very familiar with that genre, that country and western genre. Okay, the early country and western genre, the real country. Like I always said, man, the best music came out of the '70s, man. There's no doubt about it, in different genres. Okay, the real country and western music, the country and western music. Well, they call it country music now. A lot of it is garbage. Okay, it's not real country music, not authentic country and western music. That's what it was called back then, country and western music. And really, it began in the late '40s, going into the '50s. All right, and you had guys like Hank Williams. All right, Hank Williams. You had who else? Lefty Frizzell. All right, he was popular. You know, so, and a lot of these individuals, when you look up their lineages, it goes back to Scotland, Ireland. Okay, especially Ireland. All right. So reading on. Oh, Dottie West, Patsy Cline. Okay, Patsy Cline, Dottie West, artists like that. There's a channel called Willie's Roadhouse on Sirius XM, which I listen to every now and then. They play that old country stuff. So let's read on. It says historical and cultural reasons. American influence, early exposure came from American military radio broadcasts in places like St. Lucia, which played country and western music. That's what it was called back then. I remember it well. For service members and nearby populations. Labor migration, Caribbean residents who worked in the U.S., particularly in places like Florida, brought back records by artists like Hank Williams and Charlie Pride. Yeah, Charlie Pride. Charlie Pride looks just like a so-called Negro. Okay, and Elder Pastor was telling me about Charlie Pride. He wanted to be a baseball player, but he ended up being a huge country star, country and western star. Okay, Charlie Pride. All right, he was big and popular in St. Lucia too. Charlie Pride, Hank Williams, all these individuals, especially Jim Reeves. Oh, they love them some Jim Reeves. All right, and reading on, it says spreading the music through their communities when they returned. Shared experiences. Both rural southern U.S. and Caribbean populations shared similar social, economic, and Christian backgrounds, which makes the themes of country music feel relatable. Gospel roots. The strong influence of gospel music in both country and Caribbean music, and Ray Charles even crossed over into country music. Ray Charles did some country tunes. Okay, the strong influence of gospel music in both country and Caribbean music creates a musical and spiritual connection. So there you go. So you're going to have so-called Irish people that look like straight up so-called white people that are actually so-called black people. Okay, and a lot of these country artists, even though they look like so-called white people, a lot of them back in the '70s, they were so-called black people, man. They sang like them, they danced like them. All right, I'm showing you the connection. And again, a lot of Israelites, man, they're not, they don't have, their experiences is not that vast. They don't have many experiences. And this contributes to them thinking small. They're not thinking on a wide range. Okay, there's a lot of cultures out there that mirror so-called Black American culture, man. All right, all you got to do is research it. All right, so there you go, man. And now going back to this now, so they give you some examples of the connection between Irish customs and so-called Negro customs. They mentioned number one, the music fusion, and I gave you an example with the country and western. Linguistic influence is another example. The Jamaican accent is thought to have influences from both Irish and African accents due to cultural mixing in the Caribbean. And that's true. And recently I've been thinking about that. I said, why does the Jamaican accent sound so much like the Irish accent? Because a lot of the so-called Irish that came out of Ireland, a lot of them made their way to Jamaica. A lot of them made their way to Barbados, Jamaica and Barbados in particular. Okay? These are facts. All right? And the first Irish really looked like so-called Negroes. And what you had was the mixing, and then now you have what the Irish that you have now, the gingers and all that. And a lot of them gingers are jakes, man. Okay? These are facts, man. And ISUPK in particular, they're ignorant to these facts. Okay? There's a linguistic influence. Okay? The Jamaican accent is thought to have influences from both Irish and African accents due to cultural mixing in the Caribbean. And I even found this clip here. This clip's kind of funny. I'm going to play this clip for you. Bear with me for a minute. Check this clip out. All right, it's in a TikTok clip entitled, When Your Jamaican Accent Sounds Irish. All right, so check it out.
Don't want to smoke a joint.
Let's say that again. Say that again.
Don't want to smoke a joint. That's your Jamaican accent? I don't know what that is, but I love it. I love... He's like, everything's going to be Irie. Don't worry about that.
Now check out the comments, right? Somebody put, this is from Diana, shows you Diana is kind of perceptive. Diana 5626. The accents are indeed similar, though. They are. The so-called Jamaican accent and the so-called Irish accent, yeah, they're similar. And look at that, 40 people thumbed up, and I'm going to be number 41. Okay, Ireland and Jamaica, united people, and you got a Irish population in Jamaica, man. All right, look at this. I'm Jamaican, and I just found out I'm Irish and African descent. Also, 25% of Jamaicans are from Irish descent. So there's that. See? But you ISUPK guys, you'll see a so-called white boy, right? you see a so-called white boy, and he has a straight-up Jamaican accent. All right, because he's one of the descendants of the Irish that went there, and you'll still call him a cracker. You're a cracker. You're going into slavery. You're gonna kiss my boot and all this bullshit, man. Cork is Jamaican. Old news. Irish people were brought to Jamaica as indentured slaves and are the ones who taught Jamaicans English. That's why the Jamaican accent sounds Irish. We'll have to look into that. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Jamaican here. They didn't teach us English. You need to learn the origins of patois and why we speak it indeed of standard English. But there's the connection. Yeah, the part where they teach us English. Nah. Which English is a bastard language any goddamn way. Our real language is Hebrew. English itself is an amalgamation of different languages. It's not even a real language. English is not even a real language. It's an amalgamation of different languages. Case in point, the word lawyer, right? People think it's an English word. Nope. Lawyer is actually a Hebrew word, an ancient Hebrew word, Lashon Kodash, which means join to me. The Lashon Kodash way of saying Levi is lawyer, which means join to me. So there's that. There's that. All right, so there's a lot of ignorance, man. Even in the Israelite world, you can't be ignorant, man. You got to be up on things. All right. So hopefully you found this one edifying, and I'll say shalom to the Lord's elect, the brothers and sisters of the household of faith. See you in the next video.